Hello and welcome to the Progcast, which is a show that I used to have on an old YouTube channel called Progcast UK, which I've decided to revisit. Today I'm joined by Dave Webster.
Hello.
He seems so shy. He's quite popular on the YouTubes, don't you know? And today we've decided to review, or at least talk about in some detail, Relayer by Yes. I think that I actually heard this album a lot later than you did, so you're probably more familiar with it than me.
Yeah, probably the first time I listened to it was around 2007, so
yeah,
I had quite a bit of time to listen.
So you're a pretty big Yes fan, aren't you? Like, I remember when I first met you, I was like looking through this bag in his car, and I was like, this is just full of Yes CDs.
Yeah, it's a guilty pleasure.
So how do you think this album holds up in terms of, Yes's back catalogue?
Well, the cover, definitely.
The cover is
I like the
brilliant.
artwork on this.
It's like it's got kind of a medieval sort of castle type feeling, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It's really beautiful colours, like grey and purple. I don't know. All of Yes's album covers really draw you in. Like, that's one of the things about that band. I know you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but I am a sucker for a good album cover.
This was one of the first Yes albums I bought because of the album cover.
You actually purchased it based on how it looked.
Because I like the Roger Dean artwork, and I when I got into Yes, I saw a few.
Yeah.
And I listened to this before listening to Close to the Edge. I bought this and Tales from Topographic Oceans and listened to those two first before hearing Close to the Edge.
So you listened to Tales and then this, was it? Or,
yeah.
Yeah. Because that's an interesting idea, because apparently Rick Wakeman wasn't happy with some of the directions that they were taking on Tales, and so he left for this
album. The
album.
Curry incident.
Sorry?
The Curry incident.
What's the Curry incident?
He was. The story is that he was bored when they were making the album. This is Tales from Topographic Oceans, and he spent most of the time playing darts with Black Sabbath. And he came in and did some music while they were mucking around, arguing and whatnot. And
that's funny.
When they were on stage, he was bored because there wasn't much for him to do, and his technician said, "Would you like a curry?" And he said, "Yeah, I like a curry," thinking it was a joke. And then about half an hour later, this curry appears. So he eats curry on stage.
See, to me, that's kind of a little bit legendary and a little bit kind of disrespectful to the fans.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah, I'm totally bored by this. Here's curry. So was he wanting the sound to be more crazy or less crazy, or just...
I think it was just the lack of melody. It was just the lack of getting to the point. And this... I mean, I like this album, but I find it a lot less melodic than Tales from Topographic Oceans.
I think I agree with you, and I mean, the Gates of Delirium, that's the first track. That's a 20-minute pretty much opus, isn't it? And when I first heard it, I was very much intimidated by it, because it's like a wall of sound. There's a lot of erratic sounds, there's a lot of jazzy sounds, and it doesn't always feel like it's tying together. But then if you push past that and give it a little bit more time, I think there is a lot of melody on this album. I think you just have to kind of work for it to get to it.
Yes.
So the melody's there, and the melody's, in a way, it provides contrast to those areas where it's like Steve Howe just being a wizard on guitar and playing all this weird stuff. But there are at least 3 or 4 points in the Gates of Delirium that have beautiful melody, and it's really memorable, and I think that's a good point. Like, those are the parts that you can latch onto. It's like there's actually something that you know is coming, you know the melodic section's going to be there. But I completely agree with you, there's a lot of weirdness on this album.
Yeah. You have to work for it. You know they're there, and you have to work through it, but I think the contrast works.
The contrast works really well.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an album that I tried to show my girlfriend in the car, and she was like, this is just cacophony.
Yeah.
It's just noise. And I would have to agree with you. I think that for parts of this album, I remember reading about it, they went to buy like loads of bits of scrap metal or something from a scrapyard.
That's the crash you hear.
That's the crash.
Yeah.
And it's just like so creative that they're just trying to create all this weird noise. But yeah, the Gates of Delirium, it's a song that's loosely themed around war. And there's like 4 or 5 sections in there that are meant to represent different parts from battle. So, you have like the charge, you have the victory, and then you have the peace section. I mean, did you feel that it flowed in those ways?
Definitely, particularly with around the 12-minute mark. You get all this noise, and you can tell it's the battle, and then you get this melody that kicks in.
Absolutely.
And then the ending, and that ending's just...
Yeah.
You need the payoff.
Yeah.
Because there is a single edit, might even be on that one. The ending bit doesn't make sense on its own.
That's
you have
right.
to hear it with the rest of it for it to make sense.
I think you're totally right. You're talking about that 12-minute point. For me, that was the point that I felt was the victory part. So you get this build-up of erratic, crazy crap happening and all these weird sounds, and then it comes into that keyboard riff, and this structure comes through, and it gives me the feeling of like a victory in battle. It's like the rhythm and the drums and the synth come through, and it's like, this is a great feeling. It's actually a really uplifting song. Like,
it is.
I wouldn't have thought a song with so much random jazz on it would make me feel so good, but it does. But yeah, you're right. The last part, is it Soon?
Soon.
Was released as a single, and I mean, to me, that is actually my favourite part of the whole of the first song, because it's then actually really surprisingly beautiful. But it doesn't work. It only ties in if you've got the kind of crazy contrast with all the stuff that's happening before that, doesn't it?
I agree. Yeah, I think so.
But that section, Anderson's vocals on that section are really, really beautiful. Like, they're full of emotion, and it kind of has that feeling of, well, it's supposed to reflect the peace side, isn't it? So after the fight has been won, there's that kind of peaceful song. But Anderson's vocals are just beautiful on this record.
They're slightly sad as well. So I think that there's this nice sound to it, but there's something, it's like there's a battle, but there's a cost.
Yeah,
there's one, and all is not the same.
It really took me by surprise that I was like, I'm actually feeling kind of moved by this. And because you start off with the song and you think, this is just really weird and I'm never going to feel like that. But actually it is moving, and you're right, his vocals are loaded with like a sort of tinge of sadness there. And it's very, very atmospheric, and there's a lot of dynamics in that part. You know, it is interplay between noise in the background and then the dynamics and the softer parts. But it's a song with a lot of madness in it.
It is.
Like, yeah. I was trying to describe like how Steve Howe's playing on this is, and it crosses a lot of genres.
It does. I think he moves from particularly different styles, because the album, for the most part, is played with a Telecaster rather than Steve Howe's Gibson.
Yeah, that's a good point to make, yeah.
And I wonder at the end with Soon whether he goes back to a Gibson, because it sounds a bit more familiar.
Yeah.
There's a lot more volume pedal on there.
Yeah.
Than normally is in their earlier albums.
I love that volume pedal sound. That's the sound... Well, I mean, Dave Gilmour from Pink Floyd had the kind of volume knob technique, you know, where you have like one of your pickups is switched to 0, and you ease the volume knob, and it gives you that kind of haunting sound. And actually, Steve Howe uses a lot of this on this album, doesn't he? You ever tried to do that?
With my foot with a pedal.
Okay, I tried to do it on my Epiphone with the volume knob. It's actually quite hard to do because you play the note and stroke the knob. I was trying.
This is family friendly.
I was trying to think of a way of saying stroke the knob or twiddle with the knob without making.
This video is meant to get children into prog.
Sorry, I'll edit that part out.
Yeah.
We just bleep that bit over. There's a few interesting guitar techniques you can do if you've got one of those Gibsons with 2 pickups. The other one was Tom Morello, where you have basically you use your pickup switch like a dead switch. So one of your pickups is completely on 0, and the other one's loaded, and you get a sort of sound because you flip between the two.
Yeah,
it's completely disastrous for your guitar though. That's basically how I fried the circuits in my.
It's not meant for that.
It's really not meant for that.
Not at all.
Anything else you want to say about the first song? Or should we move on?
I think this applies to the whole album. I mean, the thing I like about The Gates of Delirium is it's a song that you can't comfortably hold in your head.
Yeah.
Because this is what I don't like so much about pop music, is that there's a structure and you can usually picture the whole song in your head.
You mean like a verse, chorus, interlude, chorus?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this, to me, reminds me a lot of Thick as a Brick, where you can't comfortably remember all the sections in one go, that you have to listen to it and go, oh yeah, I know that. Yeah. And you go through it. And I think that's part of the appeal, that you every time you listen, you're discovering it. That's
right. So I've listened to this album a good number of times now, and I still feel like there are parts... Your brain will latch onto the melody first, so there are bits that we're whistling, the little synth riffs, that will be in there, and you'll remember those parts first. So it does provide some of that, but actually each time you go back, it's like there's an extra element to that weird cacophony that I missed, or there's a little jazz lick in the background, or something else there. There's a lot of depth to it and a lot of listenability there.
I think the bit that you're whistling there or humming, that part, you can hear the keyboard and the guitar, but when you listen to the bass and drums, it sounds like they're playing something in a completely different time signature.
Yeah, no, that's one of the other things actually that I wanted to say about that song. The bass is actually really, really impressive. There's a lot of fast bass playing. There's this kind of thumping rhythm underneath a lot of the riffs, and you're right, it's different to the guitar and it complements the guitar, but you kind of have the guitar and the bass like doing different things. And I really love walking bass lines, bass where it kind of travels somewhere, and there's so much of that on this album. The bass just works really well. I like playing bass, but I could never play bass like that, just going all over the place.
It's Chris Squire, definitely. I think one thing that is different from this album compared to Tales from Topographic Oceans is Tales was very much John Anderson and Steve Howe, and they wrote it in a hotel room.
Yeah.
And it's their album, and I think John and Steve were with it, and everyone else wasn't really. Whereas this one, it was recorded at Chris Squire's house, in his studio, and I think he took the lead. So it's Alan White and Chris Squire taking the lead with the bass and the drums, and the melody comes from that rather than the other way around. Yeah,
and the new synth player,
Patrick Moraz.
Moraz,
crazy guy. I think there's a lot more keyboard on this, whereas I think with Tales, because Rick Wakeman wasn't quite as invested, there isn't as much. The bits that are on there are fantastic, but the small pieces, whereas this, it's all the way through.
I think the keyboards work really, really well on this record, and again, there's a lot of great interplay where the guitar will slightly mirror the keyboard, or there'll be interplay between the synth and the guitar, and there's a lot of very quirky, eccentric synth playing on this, and I love it. It sounds fantastic. So Mraz works really well. Did he go on to do more albums with them, or did Rick Wakeman replace him again? Or
he went on to do, I forget the name, I'm mind blank now, the album with Wondrous Stories.
I can't remember the name of it either.
It's a really good album.
I like the songs.
They went back to more direct songs.
Yeah.
And Patrick Moraz left and Rick Wakeman came back in.
Okay.
Going for the one. That's it, going for the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the album, I think, after the first 20-minute song, that's where the strength lies for me. Like that's the part that I like the most. To me, it then sort of...
Sound Chaser.
Sound Chaser's where it starts to get a little bit like it feels like it's falling apart. I don't know. It's a good song, but it's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it feels like Steve Howe's about to drop his guitar, and he's got something. He's like holding it and hitting notes crazily, and something's gonna go wrong, and it doesn't.
Basically, that must be the highest level of guitar wizardry, is to make it sound like it's an inch away from falling apart, but it's intentional.
Yeah.
The guitar just feels like it's going to collapse in on itself. It's like, how is there so many different licks and different directions and different solos going on? And you're right, it just sounds like... I don't know how he plays it, how he holds it together like that. It's a challenging song though, isn't it? I mean, it's not easy listening.
No, I think there are melodies in that. I forget whether it's this song or whether it's To Be Over, but there's a little reprise from Tales from Topographic Oceans.
Okay, I didn't pick up on that.
From Dance of the Dawn, there's a little melody in there that gets repeated. I forget whether it's this song or whether it's the last one.
Yeah, but the guitar playing on Sound Chaser is just pure eccentricity. It mixes. This is where it's really fusion now. You've got jazz fusion, and it mixes country style picking and playing with jazz. But there is kind of hard rock on here. There's that kind of slide guitar rhythm that comes in. And so it is a pretty rocking song. It's just, there's all of these different genres just put together.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the time guitarists will have maybe one or two genres that you can hear really clearly influencing them. Steve Howe's playing seems to just permeate and just transcend them all. It's just like all of the different sounds that guitars can make together.
I think he's trying something different with this album.
Yeah.
Something new. I think every album is different. They're because it is progressive rock. they're trying to do something new, and I think the guitar on this album is so different than what was on previous ones.
It's another good point to make, isn't it? That to be truly progressive, the music should sit a bit oddly with you. Like, it should be trying to go somewhere new. And I think one of the problems that you sometimes have is that there's this idea of prog rock, and it gets shoehorned into this sound that you had from the 70s, where, you know, it was about long guitar solos and long songs and, you know, these different ideas that you could fit in, but it should actually be about random stuff that's pushing the boundary of what's musical or trying different sounds. And this album is just mastery in terms of that. It doesn't sound like anything else that I could think of.
Certainly sounds random.
It's
particularly
random.
Sound Chaser.
It's truly progressive though, isn't it? Like, it should be a bit weird for you to listen to it if it's truly progressive. Whereas I think there is definitely a risk of slipping into the archetypal prog sound, and certainly that doesn't happen with Jens.
No, it kicks it as far as I think this sound could go.
It's almost to a point of being unpleasant.
Yeah.
But it's not. I mean, I think overall I love it. It's just that at times, like, does that work? Is that nice?
I mean, for me, I liken these two albums, Tales from Topographic Oceans and Relay, as the excess, and I think this fits with what Jethro Tull were doing with Thick as a Brick and A Passion Play, in that Thick as a Brick is a spoof concept album. Okay. So it's a spoof. I don't think it was a spoof of Tales from Topographic Oceans, but it was the spoof of that direction.
Okay.
But there are nice melodies in it.
It's still a bloody good album.
It's a good album. Whereas A Passion Play, it feels like a piss take of where they were going with this, because it's just so random.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they were making fools of what Yes were doing at that point, or whether it was just they were making fools of themselves.
It's difficult with, like you were saying, with pop songs. There can be this easy accessibility. You know you're going to have verse, chorus, and maybe interlude. But there is a certain smoothness to that. Sometimes it can be very jarring when it's just different bits. I mean, that's not how songs are conventionally written.
No.
But that's part of the fun, but it's also makes it hard for you to remember where it's going, and it can be a little bit intimidating, but it's brilliant. And the last song, To Be Over, that's quite actually a surprisingly soft and melodic song, isn't it?
I sometimes confuse this, if I haven't listened to this album for a while, I sometimes confuse this with Soon.
Yes, because they both have that softness to them. Do you mean? Yeah.
In a way, I kind of liken this to really two songs on the album. So this album has the same format as Close to the Edge, as a 22-minute song, side one, and then two 10-minute songs on side two. But I think of it mirroring that. You've got Gates of Delirium with its very eccentric sound and cacophonous.
Yeah.
Then you get Soon at the end.
Yeah.
When the side two, you get Sound Chaser.
Yeah.
And this, and they feel like I would say mirror images of each other, but almost the same pattern again.
Yeah. So the one big song on one side and the two more experimental ones on the other.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not an amazing song to be over. It's kind of nice to listen to. It's got some lovely vocal melodies, and one of the things I liked about it was there's some sitar in there at the start. I could definitely hear some experimentation with different instruments, but to me that's the album's best at the start and the middle, and then not so strong at the end. But it's still not a bad song, is it?
I think it might be a little bit too long.
Yeah.
It feels nice and relaxing, and I think it almost feels like a reward that if you listen to the lyrics, it talks about floating down the river and it being nice, and they're probably been, I think, puffing a bit too much in the 70s at this point, and it's just relaxing.
I just want to feel free, man.
But too long. You're feeling free for.
You're feeling free for the first 4 minutes, and then there's another. It's a 9-minute or something.
It is.
The second songs. I mean, I think one of the things that I used to talk about with Alid was about the balancing of albums, and I think that it's actually, you do have to very carefully balance your progression of your album. And for me, I think this one is a little bit front end heavy. To me, it's all good. It's better at the start.
Yes.
And then you kind of have this song that goes on too long a bit at the end. But anyway, overall, would you recommend this to somebody?
So I suppose, let me rephrase that question. Would I recommend it to someone who has never listened to Yes before?
It's probably not a good. I don't know. It's probably not the best starting place, is it?
No, I think if you've listened to Close to the Edge, and you've listened to Tales, then you probably already listened to this, maybe.
Yeah.
If you've never listened to Yes before, and you like really complex prog, that side of it, this might be a good way to get into Yes.
Yeah, it's not the easiest album to get into, but I think that it rewards a bit of persistence. First time I listened to it, I was a bit daunted, but now I actually would say that this is a superb album, and I've listened to it and heard new things each time I've gone back to it. So for me, probably not the best place to start with Yes, but definitely an album that I would check out if you're that way inclined. If you're not, then it's probably just going to sound like a horrible mess of different noises. But hey, it's fun.
But don't cheat by listening to the single edit of Soon, because you're doing yourself a disservice.
That's basically like they chose the most melodic, structured part of the song for the single to be like, hey, look, well, that's probably the right thing to do, to release as a single because it's going to sell.
Yes, I agree.
And this album did sell very well, I think. I was reading it went gold. So, it's obviously not that random an album. So I think that's probably everything I had to say. Anything else from you, Dave?
Just wondering if there's anything on the... Is this the 2003?
Yeah, this is the re-release, yeah.
I think the only other thing on this is there's a studio run-through. So with this and the Tales from Topographic Oceans release, you can hear them when they're running through the song, and there are bits that are a little bit different, particularly some of the keyboards. So it might be worth, if you haven't picked up this release, having a listen to that.
Yeah, this one was £5 from FOP, which is like my new favourite CD store. So it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg to find it. I think you should go check it out. Alright, so that wraps up this episode of the Progcast. Stay tuned for some more. And if you have any album recommendations that you want us to check out, then please leave a comment in the section below. Take care, guys, and I'll see you all soon.
Bye-bye.